Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Look, there's obviously a turf war of sorts between the SEC and the CFTC. Who is in charge of regulating the crypto space? Are certain aspects of it, instances where perhaps it makes sense for both to work together? Is there some overlap there? So it's like an XRP turf war, sort of. And it's obviously not just XRP. But what's happening here certainly will impact the way that XRP and every cryptocurrency ultimately is regulated. And it's fascinating to see what's unfolding here. And so I wanted to share with you something that I've found, especially in light of what's happening with the SEC going after Ripple, claiming that they sold XRP as a freaking unregistered security, which don't make no damn sense to Moon Lambeau. But this is unfolding in a way that's a little unexpected. And I want to share with you something that I found here. It seems to me that two of the current CFTC commissioners perhaps don't see eye to eye on who should regulate the crypto space and how. And, if the CFTC doesn't, insist that it be able to wield the power that it should probably have, then who's going to wield power? Because it looks to me like I'll cede this point too. There are all sorts of entities that are trying to get into various aspects of crypto. I got that. Name your government entity. It relates to crypto somewhat. Yeah, of course I understand that. But perhaps no federal government agency more impactful than the SEC. And so yes, while I'd love to have Congress step in and do more, in the meantime, it's just the children at the playground trying to figure out how to get along, the children being the SEC and the CFTC here. So I want to share with you some quotes and such, and I've also got a thread from Twitter I want to share with you on the topic, basically of given the fact that there are over 10,000 cryptocurrencies, how the hell can a reasonable person be expected to figure out which cryptocurrencies it freaking makes sense to invest in? Which ones are going to be here for the long haul? And so I want to talk about that, but before going any further, I do want to be clear, I don't have a legal or financial background of any kind. I'm not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos as a hobby, but that's all it is. It's just a for-fun hobby going on here. And so Don Stump, who is one of 4 commissioners currently serving at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC for short, has released a statement clarifying the agency's authority with respect to digital assets. But let me pause here. I'm not completely convinced that this sufficiently added clarity. It seems at odds against a couple of statements that I'm going to be sharing with you here. But anyway, in a Monday statement, Stump said the CFTC is empowered with both regulatory and enforcement authority for commodities. She did not specifically say that digital assets were cash-like commodities in the eyes of the regulatory body, but, quote, even if a digital asset is a commodity, it is not regulated by the CFTC, end quote. So according to the commissioner, however, the agency is within its power to regulate derivatives on digital assets, quote, such as the futures contracts on Bitcoin and Ether listed for trading on various CFTC-regulated exchanges, end quote. So when we're talking about derivatives, that just means effectively some sort of financial vehicle that is representative of some sort of other underlying asset. So when you think about like futures, for example, you can have Bitcoin futures, and so the futures themselves are not Bitcoin, of course. It's just people betting on the future price of Bitcoin. And so that's what we're talking about. So that's representative of Bitcoin. And then you can have other things too that could be regulated even by the SEC, by the way. You can have also you can have exchange traded funds. We're still waiting for a Bitcoin exchange traded fund, and so that would be a fund that's traded on, like, for instance, the New York Stock Exchange. It could be, and it wouldn't be that the underlying asset, like say it's a Bitcoin exchange traded fund, it wouldn't mean that Bitcoin itself is being traded. It would be the case that a fund is being offered by some sort of financial entity, and then you can trade the fund which is representative of the underlying Bitcoin on the stock market. Like that's what it means. You can trade the fund that represents Bitcoin on it. So that would be a derivative. That's what we're talking about here. But here's one quote. I don't want to read the whole article, but take a look at this quote from Dawn. This is the CFTC commissioner. To determine the CFTC's regulatory authority with respect to a digital asset, ask not whether the digital asset is a commodity or a security. Ask whether a futures contract or other derivatives product is involved. So how about that? So she's saying this is why it's interesting. It doesn't seem to have anything to do, at least according to her, to the it doesn't have as much to do, at least, or well, if anything, to do with the underlying asset. It's like, is there a representation of that asset somewhere that we can regulate? Can we regulate the representation of the asset? Right. I mean, let me read this again to you. So now that I explained it that way. To determine the CFTC's regulatory authority with respect to a digital asset, ask not whether the digital asset is a commodity or a security, ask whether a futures contract or other derivatives product is involved. That's the full quote. Interesting, right? Especially considering this. Here's a tweet from Brian Quintons. He is also a CFTC commissioner, and he tweeted out the following on August 4th, and I've actually shared this tweet on the channel before. Take a look at this. Just so we're all clear here, the SEC has no authority over pure commodities or their trading venues, whether those commodities are wheat, gold, oil, or, drumroll, crypto assets. Well, how about that? A little bit of a different statement from a different commissioner here. Interesting, right? Well, take a look at this. Here's another tweet from Chris Giancarlo. This is a former CFTC chairman. Right, and by the way, I'm not going to read this article, but I wanted to highlight it so you get a feel for who this gentleman is. Here's a headline from CoinDesk, June 17th of 2020, last year. This is titled, "Former CFTC Chair Giancarlo lays out why he thinks XRP isn't a security." And so he stated his case as to why XRP clearly could not possibly reasonably be considered a security. So he's definitely on team decentralized XRP, that's for damn sure. And also on August 4th, take a look at what Chris Giancarlo tweeted. Only one U.S. regulatory agency has experience regulating markets for Bitcoin and crypto, and it is not the SEC. It is the CFTC. If Biden administration is serious about sensible crypto regulation, it needs to nominate a CFTC chairman. And so it was two notable people on the same day talking about a very similar topic, let's say. So like, ultimately, like, with this turf war with the CFTC versus the SEC, even though they'd never characterize it like that, I'm just sitting here as an outside observer being like, bitches, who's got the power, you know? You see that, and then you see two commissioners of the CFTC saying, let's just say they're delivering different messages. Like, really, I just think that there should be more clarity, like Congress, like, rather than see them like beat each other over the heads or anything like that. I'd rather Congress just come in and make it blatantly clear who's in charge of what, and hopefully they come about it in a reasonable way. But we are talking about the federal government here, so, you know, cross your fingers, right? And then there was into the next topic. Now take a look at this, and this is cool. So there is a tweet from, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, Q Wang, Wang. I don't know. It's on your screen, dude. Like, if you care, take a look. I'm not familiar with him, but he's got a big following, 101,000 followers, all up on the Twitters. He used to work at Masari, and apparently he's with or supports a startup called DeFi Alliance, which I'm not familiar with. But anyway, he tweeted out the following: "Make peace with the fact this industry moves way too fast for anyone to keep up, and that you will inevitably miss out on some great opportunities." And look, I like that tweet. And I agree. I feel exactly the same way. And yeah, of course I'm going to miss on stuff. You only have so much time in a freaking day to do whatever. And even in doing your own research, it's very difficult to figure out what is true, who you can trust, so on and so forth. I mean, it's just like a minefield out there. But there is tremendous opportunity. And so how do I approach this? Well, take a look at this next tweet, because this is what makes all the sense in the world to me. And this is what has helped me. And I think at such early days that it can help really anybody listening at this point, anybody that is interested in researching crypto and making their own decisions ultimately. But here's what Santiago Velez wrote, who happens to be a very pro XRP individual. And he really gets the actual utility of. I've seen him in interviews on Raoul Paul's Real Vision. But anyway, he tweeted out the following: "On that note, understand that new opportunities will continually present themselves anytime you tune into and study the information stream. You can't miss the boats. And so that makes sense. So like if you're talking about the earliest stages, yeah, you're going to miss it, and then eventually it gets bigger. Maybe you miss it until it's like there's not much opportunity left because it's blown up so much. Okay, maybe. But it's so early in crypto, even that's somewhat unlikely. And so what he's saying here is with the stream of all of this current, the stream of information, so on and so forth, you can't miss the boats. Maybe it's effectively, it's kind of like maybe you miss like somebody in a little canoe going down that stream, but the big old boat, you ain't gonna miss that. And so I think back to when I jumped into crypto in 2017, and some people before me, they had already done a lot of the work. And what do I mean by that? Well, what was brought to my attention when I jumped into crypto in November of 2017? Well, I came across a website called CoinMarketCap.com. You might still heard of it. And I've been using Live Coin Watch for most of the last few years, but at first, the first one I came across was CoinMarketCap, so I was using it. And I was just, in my earliest days, I was like, okay, I don't even know where the hell to begin. So I guess at the top, I was looking at all the cryptocurrencies ranked by market cap. And at the time, I don't remember exactly where XRP was positioned, probably number 3 or 4, but I'd have to go take a historical look at this, whatever was happening at the time. But it was probably number 3 or 4. And so anyway, I'm going through and I'm researching one by one. And as I researched XRP, that was my moment when, after a little bit of research, I eventually got to the point where I was like, I had my aha moment for crypto and recognized it was never going away, because I realized that you can have a cryptocurrency that can be used to facilitate business models that otherwise would be impossible. So in this case, you need to have XRP, which is technologically sufficient, decentralized, and has an open market price. And all of those things are very important for this to actually work, for XRP to be positioned as a bridge currency. And at that point, I was just engrossed. My simple moon nimble brain exploded. And I was like, oh man, crypto is never going away. And I got it right then. That's when I had my aha moment. And so the reason I even came across that as quickly as I did, because there were already thousands of cryptocurrencies back then. I don't remember exactly how many. On CoinMarketCap, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing close to 2,000 even back then. And so the reason I came across that so quickly, so early in my days, is because other people had done some of the work for me. They had already voted it up enough, even though I think most people were clueless about XRP and its technological attributes and the way it could be used. I think most speculators, even today, are clueless. Enough people had confidence that it got bumped up in terms of market cap positioning that I came in 2017 feeling like I was late to the party, and I was like, whoa, okay. But it was brought to my attention. That was one of the boats in the stream. It wasn't a little canoe. It was a freaking boat at the top of the market cap list, and there for good reason, as it turns out. And it doesn't mean that every single cryptocurrency in the top 10 is going to have long-term staying power. In fact, that's unlikely. But at this point, these are the cryptocurrencies that, by and large, people seem to think make sense. And so XRP, although not sufficiently appreciated for its technical attributes and real-world utility, not today anyway, there was enough confidence voted with dollars, pick your fiat currency, thrown into it globally, that it did push it up. And so I'm thankful for that. But we're not going to get everything. And so, again, I benefited from other people's work, having done the research, understood the technology in the most nascent of days. And here we are now today. And I still insist, it's early days, even in 2021. Even if you're new listening to this, if you're new to crypto, you're still here in the early days here. And so there's no reason to feel bad about missing opportunities, but damn, I got to tell you, yeah, the biggest ones like that, once it gets to that point, you're not going to miss it. You still kind of need to pay attention, sure, admittedly. And I did, and you are if you're here, but they're going to come. And at some point, look, enough time passes, everything's going to become sufficiently clear. And given that it's not sufficiently clear, but we still have some of the bigger boats, to keep going with Santiago's analogy, like there's still enough there to, like for me at least, to take an educated bet on where some of the space might go, which is why I've invested the way that I have in XRP specifically. So I'm not telling you to buy or sell or hold anything, but that's the way that I'm looking at it here. And so then there's an XRP community member named Panos who retweeted that first tweet that I shared with you from that gentleman whose name I can't say because it's foreign to me. And he wrote the following. I like this thread. And you should follow him, by the way. If you're on Twitter, I highly recommend. He's at PANOSMEK. He writes a blog about all sorts of crypto and XRP stuff. You'll absolutely love it. I've covered little snippets from a couple of his pieces. It's good stuff. Anyway, here's what he wrote, though. There are 10,000 plus cryptos in existence right now, and new ones come out every day. I see many people trying to chase profits, jump from one crypto to another, and follow all the different news/events going on. but it's more likely that this will lead to losses instead of profit. Stop chasing profits and hype/speculation and make a good plan. If you are a long-term investor, your portfolio should mainly consist of long-term investments that you don't touch. And then parentheses he writes, unless the fundamentals of the project change. And then he says, or try to trade and you keep accumulating. And so let me pause right there. You do whatever you want. I'm not telling you to buy or sell or hold anything like I just said a moment ago. I want to reiterate that. But to me, this makes all the sense in the world. And so I've actually done that accordingly because I don't know when utility is going to matter more to the space, but at some point it's going to happen. And I see XRP today functionally being used. It's used in enterprise-grade software. I see people using it to facilitate easier trading because XRP is just good at moving money around. It's so blazing fast, fractions of a penny per transaction. It's amazing stuff. You don't get that with the vast majority of other cryptocurrencies out there. And so if the fundamentals change and if I see adoption decrease or they really begin to go away, well, okay, I'm going to reevaluate. I am not here for ideological reasons. If XRP becomes crap in terms of adoption, then I'm gone. Like, that's it. I'm not married to it. And if any of you are married to it, you might want to rethink that. But I am Mr. XRP Bull for a reason. There are so many legitimate good reasons to be here and to be excited. I firmly believe that. And so for me, like I've said before, like the vast majority of my crypto holdings, it's like utility has heavily swayed me, let's say. And so my biggest holding is XRP, for sure. Given that I understand that the market moves in tandem and that it's not sufficiently rational at this point in time, I have made a decision which I think is riskier than investing in XRP personally. It's just my humble opinion. And I have invested in other cryptocurrencies that I'm not convinced are going to be around. And for me, it's just because I believe that I have a sufficient understanding of human psychology and how humans operate within these markets. And so I bought when everybody was afraid to buy. And I think that money is going to come in because markets are cyclical. And then I'm going to sell. And so it's just me speculating. We're all basically betting against each other. That's what it is. I'm selling when I sell finally one day. My bet will be that either it's sufficient or that I don't think that it's going to go up better, or maybe both, or go up more, or both. And the other person will be purchasing because they're betting that it will go up. And hey, more power to if it goes up and they can make a buck off it, super duper. But I think most of these cryptocurrencies are going to go away. And so that's why for me, if you're talking really long term, if you're talking especially like a decade plus, damn. If I were forced to hold everything like for a decade, I'd be a little fearful because I'd assume that most of the dozen cryptocurrencies that I have probably going to be extinct by then if I just had to guess for fun. But that's why it's a good thing, I think anyway, that XRP, which offers utility, is my largest holding. But again, still don't know for sure if it's going to continue unfolding quite like that. But anyway, Panos continues. So the last thing he stated there is basically, focus on projects that have good fundamentals, right? And then he writes, these should be at least 70 to 80% of your portfolio, and then you can have some short-term investments to play, speculate, gamble, or whatever you want. But do not fall into the trap of trading and trying to catch every new overhyped coin. In bull runs, most coins go up. So let me pause there. Yes, that is absolutely true. Every single mid and large cap coin on the planet increased last market cycle parabolically. The charts ended up looking about 100% the same. They really did. I know it's absurd, but that's what humans did. Money cycled through the crypto space. And I think that happened for most of the small caps, if not all of them. But there were so many coins even back then. If there are some outliers, I admit I could just be unaware of them. But even with the small cap coins, damn, the charts look the damn same. They did. And so, yeah, everything right now just goes up. And then Panos wrote, find some good projects and stick to them. You can add another good project occasionally, but don't research continuously for new ones. Otherwise, you will feel overwhelmed and you will be burned out. Long term is what really matters and where the real money will be made. This is a rapidly evolving industry. We see new concepts, use cases, and apps coming out every day, and you can't keep up with everything. But if you get the main idea and basics, then you will not have a problem. You don't have to learn about every single thing in details. Yeah, that's exactly true. And the same is true with XRP. But by the way, it's impossible to understand everything about Ripple and XRP. We're not privy to everything that Ripple's doing anyway. And then in terms of the way that XRP is being adopted, there's no way you can know every single thing that every human is doing with it. And you don't know what it's going to come out, what competition and everything's going to face. Like, you don't know these things. And so you just do your best and you move along. But that's why it's okay. Like for me, I realize that I can always change the direction that I'm headed. I can change the course of the ship. And so if I think that something is seriously problematic, I'll just adjust my portfolio. To me, it's just not the end of the world. In the meantime, everything's just moving in tandem. So yes, it does require diligence. This asset class is in its nascency, but damn, there's so much opportunity. And so anyway, I agree with Panos in a general sense. I think it makes much more sense to focus on utility. I say that while acknowledging, yes, in the short term, not enough people care, but look at what happened with the dot-com boom and bust. Humans behaved the same. Money went into everything that was a dot-com, bubble inflated, bubble popped, and then what? The companies that didn't make sense, they went the way of the dodo, my favorite extinct avian creature, and then what happened? The ones that were good remained, like Amazon, and then other ones came after that aftermath. They did, and that's fine. And so I understand that the crypto bubble keeps inflating multiple times and popping, and we haven't had that yet. And there are a number of reasons for that. You're getting quick cycles. Everything trades 24/7. It's a truly global presence. And most cryptocurrencies are, it's harder for them to actually take hold in terms of real world utility. That's what we're finding right now. And so that's the reason that you're going to market cycle after market cycle after market cycle with minimal real world utility. Like it's no more complex than that as far as I can see anyway. But eventually, yeah, it's going to get figured out and most of these cryptocurrencies go away. That's what I think. But in the meantime, there's still little money in the space. My gosh, the multiplier effects, the opportunity for truly life-changing money, I firmly believe it's still here. I'll go ahead and wrap it there, though. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.